Alright guys, today let's talk about tight hip flexors. This area just through here, what's happened and how we've gotten into this position. What can we do to stretch and strengthen them up, take some of your low back pain away, take some of your knee pain away, and just generally get you moving better. So as we can tell, yes, hip flexor starts up here. There's actually two of them. Your psoas, which starts here in your low back, wraps around and attaches down here into your groin, and your rectus femoris, which starts up here on the front, goes down over the hip joint and also over the knee joint. I'm not just showing you those names to show off. It's more just to tell you a little bit more about the biomechanics, because that's going to be important with some of our exercises that we do. What's happened? How have you gotten such tight hip flexors? Well, firstly, it could be low back related. So as a side note to this, maybe work on your core, doing some ab stuff and making sure you're in less of an anterior tilt, trying to get more into a posterior tilt. So doing some planks, some bridges, some glute stuff, just as a side to the quad and hip flexor stuff that we're going to talk about today. It could also just be your sitting position at work. If you're sitting down all day, you know, in a hip shortened position like this, those hip flexors are going to get a bit shorter and a little bit tighter. So just trying to do some stretches to try and balance all of that out. Speaking of which, let's get into some stretches now and see if we can open up our hips a bit. Your number one stretch when it comes to hip flexors will always be the couch stretch. So this is with one foot up on the bench or a lounge, couch as it's probably in the name. Getting your knee as close to the lounge as you can. You probably want to put a pillow under there if your surface is hard, obviously. Place one foot in front and then coming up into a lunge. Now the closer that your knee is to the bench or the wall, the more you're going to feel this in the main section of your quad. So I'll just demonstrate that now. So that's with my knee really close. And you can see I feel that mainly through the lower section of the quad. And you might be thinking, but I want to stretch my hip flexors. Yes, like I said, the rectus femoris starts here at the top, goes over the hip, through the middle, down to the knee as well. So stretching at that middle section will stretch your hip flexor. If you have your knee a little bit further forward, you're going to feel a little bit higher. And you can see I can get a little bit further now, and now I'm feeling it up around the actual hip joint. Now, when it comes to this stretch and any stretch, and in fact all those exercises that we're going to go through in a moment, what's crucial is that we tuck our butt into a posterior tilt. So if you can see my butt now, I've got my butt stuck out like that. That's what we call an anterior tilt. It's tilting forwards. This is a posterior tilt. I'm tilting backwards. If you're not sure how to do this, or if you're having trouble, a good way is just to practice your cat-cow. So you can see I've got my butt here. That's an anterior tilt. That's a posterior tilt. Anterior with my butt stuck out, posterior with my butt tucked in. For any hip flexor stretch or strengthen, we want to get into a posterior tilt. So place my foot up again. Foot's here, that's anterior. And you can see, look how far forward I can get into an anterior tilt. It's because I'm not really stretching that hip flexor. I want to get into a posterior tilt, tuck in underneath, lower abs engaged, forward, forward, forward. I can't go anywhere near as far, but that's okay. How long am I going to hold this stretch for? 3 to 5 minutes. Yes, quite a long time for those quite tight hip flexors. So let's try and get all the way forward. As the 3 minutes progresses, you can maybe lift one arm, start leaning over that front leg a little bit, change up your angle slightly, pushing the hips forwards, opening up. Remember, our rectus femoris goes from up here down to over the knee. So by lifting the shoulder a little bit, I'm going to feel that a little bit more. Leaning forwards, leaning over. That's going to stretch that hip flexor. 3 to 5 minutes. Number 2 for stretches for our hip flexor and quads is the hurdler's stretch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one leg out straight and the other leg tucked in underneath. And as you can see, I kind of look like a guy hurdling over a hurdle here. So this is our start position. I want to tuck that foot. Now, depending on your quad flexibility, you might already feel this quad stretch here. What we want to then do is lean back, try and get down onto one elbow, and if you can, try and get down onto 2 elbows with that knee nice and low to the floor. More flexible you are, the further back you'll get. But let's assume that you've got really tight hip flexors. You can't get back too far. Just lean more over onto that one arm, trying to create distance from knee to the shoulder. Then from here, squeeze your butt, push your butt forward, open up through the hips. Get that hip flexor nice and open, and just hang out in this position. How long? 3 to 5 minutes again. So you might want to do the cat stretch on one day, the hurdler stretch on the other day, and accumulate, or maybe if you have a spare time, spending, 3 minutes, 6 minutes on both sides, so 12 minutes. If you have 12 minutes of stretching you can do every day, this would be a good place to start. Okay, you might be thinking to yourself, I've been doing lots of hip flexor stretching, but those hip flexors are still tight. I'm still not getting the movement I would like in my hips. That means you need to start working on your strength stuff. So the first exercise we want to do is the ATG, or ass to grass split squat. So what we want to use is a box or a step, or just even a couple of books, just something that you can elevate your front foot from your back foot. Place that front foot on there, take your back foot as far back as you can into a nice lunge type position. I've got that back knee straight and I'm getting into a posterior tilt. Remember we talked about anterior tilt versus posterior tilt, tuck that butt underneath. Now as you do that, you'll find that your back knee will want to bend, so lock out that back knee again. By doing that with the tilt and the back knee straight, I've already got a hip flexor stretch. Now from here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and back up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and back up. What's happening here is I'm what we call eccentrically loading. I'm loading under weight slowly in the down phase, in the lengthening phase of an exercise. If you can do these, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Body weight, full range of motion, no problems. Then go up into weight. Holding 2 dumbbells, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Between 10 and 15 reps, 3 sets. If you can do 15, it's not heavy enough, add some weight. If you can't do 10, full range, getting that butt to almost touch your heels, keeping that back knee straight, it's too heavy, okay? 3 sets, 10 to 15 reps. Exercise number 2 is our reverse Nordic curl. So here we're going to be kneeling and falling backwards. You can grab a towel and wrap it around something like a doorknob or a door frame, or you can grab a band, that's what I've got attached to a gym, but you can attach it to a bed or a lounge or just something heavy at about chest height or lower. Now, what we want to do is kneel facing our apparatus, and then from here we're falling backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and coming back up. Now the most important part of this is that the hips stay forward, the abs stay engaged, the pelvis stays in that anterior tilt. Keep that butt tucked, okay? If you drop your butt out behind you, it takes all the pressure off, makes it too easy. So from here, tuck that butt, abs tight, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now when you're down here, depending on how tight your hips are, you might feel the stretch in your quad, you might feel it in the hips, you might feel it down around your knees, okay? Remember that rectus femoris muscle goes from here, the top, all the way over that knee. So depending on where you're tight, you might feel it somewhere else. From here, kick, 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 bring yourself back up. Don't have to hold it that long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kick, 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 bring yourself back up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Use your hands if you need to and pull, okay? That's what those hands are for. As you get stronger, you won't need to use your hands anymore. You can just do a body weight, but at first, low down, use that towel, use that band, pull yourself back up. 3 sets of 10 reps, 5 seconds down, 1 second up. That's 3 sets of 10 reps, 5 seconds down, 1 second up. Okay, next we've got the reverse squat. So what happens here is we're going to lie down, we're going to grab something heavy on behind our head and bring our knees to our chest, commonly known as just the knees to elbows, except we're going to be adding resistance to the feet, so it's working those hip flexors, bringing those knees to our chest. Okay, so grab hold of something heavy behind you. If you don't have something heavy, you can just do it with your hands on your head. It's just going to be a little bit harder. You want to attach a band to something in front of you, a lounge, a chair, something really heavy, a couple of meters in front of you ideally, because you want to be able to stretch out those legs. Then just wrap it around your feet lie down, either hands on the head or hold on to something heavy, and bring your knees to your chest. So from here, knees to chest, hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Knees to chest, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Knees to chest, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Same as our ATG split squats, 3 sets, 10 reps, 5 seconds in the eccentric, 1 second up. So that's 3 sets of 10 with a 5 second negative, 1 second back up, big hold. If you can't get the knees all the way into the chest for 10 reps, go a lighter band or come a little bit closer. If you can do 15 reps, then it's too easy and get either a heavier band or just get further away from your anchor point. Okay, next, let's do one that doesn't require any equipment at all, which is the leg overs. So what we want to do is just sitting in an upright position, have our legs here. The easiest version, level 1, is just having our legs apart and lifting our leg up and over and down, up and over and down. Up and over what, you might be asking? Well, that's where your strength of your hip flexor comes in. So placing like a yoga block or just something that's relative height here that gives you a bit of a task. Now, the reason I like a yoga block is because it's 3-sided and you can just pick the side that works for you. So you can pick one of these up from Kmart for $7. So this is the low side, and as you can see, that one's easy for me. Medium, and then if I put it on the high one, that now requires a bit of effort. Now, the other thing we want to do, if I just do this side on, is ensure that we're not leaning back. Okay, so if I put this here, I want to keep my torso upright. On the low, I can do that perfectly. On the medium, yep, no problems. But on the high, you'll see I start to lean back a little bit to make that happen. That means that that's probably at my limit. If you can do 15 to 20 up and overs perfectly without your back moving, then go up in the height. And if that's too easy, then you can start moving on to one of those more difficult exercises. Our final exercise is kneeling to lunge. From this one, we're just going to keep our shoulders still, the same as our previous exercise. We're in a kneeling position here. I'm going to bring my knee up and around and into a lunge. Back here. So I'm using, when I'm in this position here, that's that hip flexor and some rotation and some internal rotation that brings me around to there. I'm obviously not going to do it with my foot on the floor. That's your goal. Up and around, up and around. Now, as you get stronger, you'll be able to get that foot high, you'll be able to lift that knee higher, and that's when you can use your yoga block again. So place your foot down on the block, make sure you're in the right position, up and around and down. You want to try and get that foot back up onto that yoga block, because the higher the ground is, the more difficult it's going to be. 15 to 20 reps. Again, if that's doable, then you can up your yoga block. Putting it onto the medium block, that's probably going to be okay. Oh, as you can see, my shoulders are moving now, so this is about my limit. Anything higher than that, I probably wouldn't recommend going onto the high yoga block. I'd probably maybe just put a book or something underneath it just to lift it up a little bit. But yes, keep those shoulders still. 15 to 20 reps, 3 sets. Okay, we've gone through some stretches and strength work for your hip flexors. As discussed, for your stretches, you want to do about 3 to 5 minutes per side. Something that's really going to open up those hip flexors. Remember, staying in your posterior tilt, keeping your butt tucked in underneath, and just hanging out for a long period of time, giving those muscles as best a chance to relax and finally let go of some of their tension. For the strength stuff, this is vitally important. Remember, muscles get tight for a reason, and that reason is usually weakness. So focus on the eccentric phase, the stretch phase, as I said, usually 1 second on the work, 5 seconds on the relax. Somewhere between the 10 to 20 rep range is going to be about right. And you want to hit them every second day or so. Not any more than that. If you're hitting them more than every second day, either A, you're not going to recover fast enough, or B, you're not training hard enough to actually affect change. So every second, third day is about right. Good luck, guys. In a couple of weeks, you should see some good improvements in the mobility and strength of those hip flexors.